All right, there we go. So good morning, everyone. We don't have that many people joining us, I guess, today. But welcome to our webinar with GEO Nova Scotia. So joining us today from GEO Nova Scotia is Matt Spurway. Matt is GEO Nova Scotia's Provincial Coordinator and is here to speak on what, I guess, their initiatives are and what they're doing throughout the province. So Matt, if you don't mind, I'll hand it over to you and you can give yourself like a little introduction.
Sure. So, yeah, Matt Spurway is my name. I live and work out of Dartmouth here in Nova Scotia, and my main job or my day job for the last 5 years has been as a community coordinator for an initiative called Between the Bridges. It's a collective impact initiative in Dartmouth North, and we bring together people from the community with nonprofits and various elements of the public sector, government, schools, everything, and the private sector we bring them all together to tackle complex social issues that nobody can really tackle on their own. And there are 3 communities that have a similar program. So Between the Bridges in Dartmouth North, and then we have Northside Rising up in Sydney, or up North Sydney, I should say, and also Turning the Tide down in Digby. And so I've been at that job for 5 years now. And from that, has come this work. So GEO Nova Scotia, GEO, stands for Getting Everyone Online. And it started in Dartmouth North, connected to that work in April of last year. And so now that it's grown and expanded, part of my work is as the coordinating it at a provincial level, and thus the title Provincial Coordinator. And so that's why I'm here with you today.
Awesome. So if you're ready, we can go into the questions, I guess.
Sure.
So I guess you kind of answered what GEO Nova Scotia stands for, but give us like an overview of what you do in your position and like what GEO Nova Scotia is looking to do.
Right. So like we said, GEO stands for Getting Everyone Online, and it's that simple. GEO Nova Scotia is a partnership of now dozens and dozens of organizations from across the province, who are all working together and playing some role in trying to create systems that will ensure everybody has affordable access to the internet, devices, and then also the skills they need to, safely and confidently use the internet. So that's a lot, and we're certainly not there yet. But we started basically earlier this year, at the beginning of this year. We built on the success of what we call the GEO project from 2020. Which was more localized and grassroots. And so what we're doing right now, I guess there's 2 ways to look at it, Emma, what we're doing now, or what we've been doing this year, and then what we hope to grow into and what we hope to become, because they're on the same path, but they're different. So kind of looking backwards at what we've been doing and what we do right now with the resources that we've been granted at the beginning of this year, is that we've got 4 delivery partner organizations across the province: HRM, Cape Breton, Valley, and the Southwest Shore. And each of them has built out a network of referral partner organizations, frontline service groups that work with people who could need this help. And then individuals are referred in who need help because they don't have home internet access. And so right now we're offering people 12 months of free high-speed home internet. And if they don't have a decent functioning device, they can also get a new Chromebook. Everything is at this point at no cost to participants or organizations. And that's basically it. So it helps people with 2 out of the 3 things you need for digital inclusion: the device and the internet access. And then skills is the 3rd piece. So we don't have anything that supports skills right now, but that's part of what we hope to add in the future. So internet and devices for now, and then 2022, we hope to be internet, devices, and skills, and also expand and refine the work.
Awesome. I guess you kind of answered my next question, which is what is GEO Nova Scotia's mission?
Digital inclusion. Digital inclusion. That is the phrase. That is the priority, right? It has become, and it will start to be recognized as a mission unto itself, just like housing or food insecurity or these other kind of buckets of work that need to get done. Digital inclusion is a critical social priority that until people have what they need to be included, it has to be addressed, because without it, they can't access anywhere else.
Awesome. So we have a question in the chat right now. We'll just go over there for a second. So Carrie's wondering if your services are going to be going to the Northern Zone.
Right. So remind me, which zone is the Northern Zone?
It would be like, I'm thinking like Amherst area.
Sure. So yeah, right now with the kind of the, you might call it the prototype or pilot money, we've got the 4 regions that we're working in. Okay. And yeah, the eventual goal, provided we have the resources, would be to reach every part of the province. Every community has people that don't have what they need to be online. And so we need to be everywhere. But what the model looks like and what makes the most sense, how you distribute the work, how many delivery partners do we have servicing what referral partners and where are they, is a work in progress, right? 2020, it was 1. This year it was 5. Next year, maybe it should be more, or maybe it should be fewer that service larger areas. That part of the recipe is being still in the works, but the intention absolutely would be to get it into all areas. Yeah.
Okay, great. I guess my question then going off of that would be, are people in the Northern Zone able to access your services even though they don't have like a partner up there yet?
Yeah, well, so the resources that we were granted at the beginning of the year have almost all been already allocated, right? So we have 70 odd partners in the referral partners overall, and we've allocated well over 300 of the internet accounts that we're funded for, and the remaining are essentially already identified in either the regions of the partners who are going to be using them up. So there, until new resources are added to the GEO mix, there isn't an opportunity yet for new partners to sign on and provide significant amounts of support in whatever region they're in. What's neat about GEO too is, like, GEO isn't even an organization yet. There's no entity called GEO. It's the banner that we're all working together under as a partnership, and we're on a path to standing it up as a not-for-profit that can, get granted directly. But right now we have delivery partners that all have that ability. So for example, Nudon up in Cape Breton, or Lake City Works here in Halifax, or Public Good Society of Dartmouth. And we can each take resources from wherever they come and apply them to the GEO model with whatever partners we want, and turn out internet and devices on the other side of it. So for example, Halifax Youth Foundation just gave us a grant for $15,000 to support youth in HRM. So we can use the GEO purchasing power and the distribution network to turn that immediately into 40 brand new Chromebooks and devices. And we already have an established network of partners that serve youth, and we were able to funnel those out quickly and easily. And I use that example because any partner in any part of the province, if they're able to identify resources for a particular group or area or need, then we can run those through the GEO framework and apply them where they're needed, right? So we don't have to wait for the government to grant us $1 million next year to then say, let's move into Cumberland County. Cumberland County said, hey, look, we've got some money for digital inclusion. We got it from a grant. We got it from here. We don't care, right? What can we do with that? Well, let's figure out how many people we could serve, and then what's the intake process for that area or that partner or that region. Yeah, we're excited to find different ways to serve people.
Right, perfect. So
oh, Emma, I think you're the one who froze, because I can see Kaylee blinking, so it's not me. Oh,
can you hear me?
You're back. You're back.
Sorry.
It's okay. You said
like,
so, and then we lost you.
Oh, I was leaving like room for mystery there. That's what
That's
it
good.
was. So how is GEO created? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, how did it start? Where did the idea come from?
Great. Yeah. So we all remember March 2020, March break. I've got 3 kids. Everyone left school and no one went back, right? Everything got locked down in the middle of March. So I mentioned I'm a community coordinator with Between the Bridges. And so literally our job almost every day was bringing meetings, tables of people together from all different parts of the community and working on issues. And we invested a lot of our time and energy in what we would call equitable engagement. So making sure that whether you're a low-income resident, you feel just as comfortable and empowered to participate as those people who are there, maybe because it's their job. So, transportation was always covered if needed. We paid cash for childcare. We catered every meal, every meeting, so people were being fed. And then when the lockdown happened, what we realized is we hadn't thought about that in terms of digital inclusion. So we had people who were participating, showing up in meetings, getting material, working on stuff, and they didn't have home internet access. And so as soon as the lockdown happened and they couldn't even go to the library, they were shut off. So we were like, okay, well, we're all going to learn Zoom, but then people couldn't show up. So within a few days, we realized, myself and my colleague, that there are people in the community that we want to and need to engage in our work, and they can't because they don't have internet or devices. But we also knew that it is one of our principles is to make sure everyone has what they need to participate, and we have resources to dedicate to that. And now that especially we're not even spending money on food anymore, right? The catering budget's just sitting there. So we immediately reached out to a local internet provider, a local reseller, kind of the discounty type places, and said, if we pay the bills, can we give you a couple of names and you get them set up? And they said, yeah, okay. So within a week, we had 2 or 3 people in our network, in our community that worked with us that we identified who didn't have home internet, and we set them up, and a few others who didn't have a device. And so we bought some refurbished desktop computers from one of our local nonprofit partners that does that anyway, and got people connected. And then we held our first meeting, I would say like a week or 2 later, and we invited all the community organizations, like everything from the health, from the family center to the schools, to the Boys and Girls Club, the food banks, like dozens of organizations were there. And as we went around hearing from people right in the aftermath of the lockdown, the number one issue became people aren't connected, people, right? Especially our schools and our students. We had, dozens and dozens of kids who weren't able to access their classrooms and their teachers in schools like everyone else was. So that digital gap became like everyone's, in some cases food, but otherwise this was like a top issue. And it was never part of anybody's discussion prior to that. So we realized there's this massive need. We knew that it was an emergency situation. I mean, you talk to somebody who only has a radio, and all the news, if you remember back then, it was like, if you have symptoms, go online. If you need government benefits, go online. If you need a friend, go online. If you need to shop, go online. Like everything's online. And that's the only place you're told to go. Well, what are you supposed to think if you're listening to that? Well, you don't even have minutes on your phone, let alone internet access. So we felt that emergency need. And we also knew that we had this community and this network of existing partners who already knew. They could tell you, or they could point to people who didn't have the support. So the Public Good Society of Dartmouth is a nonprofit that I'm on the board of. We have charitable status. We're in the community, and we literally had $3,000 of unallocated money from a local anonymous donation. And so I went to the next board meeting and I said, here's the need. We know where we can buy internet, where we know where we can buy devices, and we already have $3,000. Let's, can we use that and get started and see what happens? And they said, yes, absolutely. No, I mean, we didn't know if it was going to last a month or 6 months, or right. Nobody knew what the pandemic meant at that point, but we knew it was not acceptable for people to be home without connection. So they added 3, Between the Bridges added 5, United Way had some emergency money then, and we got 7 from them. And the Kiwanis was kicking around because they had heard about the kids without devices and wanted to support them. And so they used our work and contributed 5. So by the end of April, we had $20,000, and again, a kind of an existing network of partners between the schools and the family and food centers and Ad Support and others who were trying to help people who weren't connected. And I had some spare time because a lot of our work was kind of slowed right down. So it became a kind of side of the desk project for the rest of the summer. I built all the forms and established the processes and started buying computers and, stocking them up in my basement and delivering them as the requests came in. And by the end of the year, we had connected 40 households with internet, many of them still connected to this day. We distributed 50 desktop computers. We bought web cameras in bulk to attach to them, and learned a lot about the processes and how to make it work and how to work with different partners and how to serve different needs. And also, built more relationships with people who saw this as probably one of the best methods that we're seeing about how to get people connected. So, in the summer and in the fall, we were starting to get stuff like consultation grants from Davis Pier, and, some other, former deputy minister is going to lean in and, provide strategic advice, and a government partner who we already had worked with through Between the Bridges leaned in to help connect with folks with inside of government. So it's just been growing from there. So that 2020 success of what we call the GEO project, led us into getting enough money in 2021 to call it GEO Nova Scotia and just start. And that's what we did. So you're catching us kind of at the tail end of that, and hopefully at the beginning of a few years of growth.
Oh yeah, I think there's going to be more growth. We're all going to be waiting to see what happens.
Email your minister, tell them to spend money on GEO Nova Scotia. Yeah, it's they're great. Our provincial partners, and we are eager to meet with the new government. Obviously, the work that we've done so far was all kind of very much, let's say, like behind the scenes. So this was never kind of a politically motivated investment. The money that we're working with so far all came kind of internally from within government, and the partners who knew that this is a big issue and had some resources that they could dedicate to at least seeing how things roll out. So we're actually very excited in January to start meeting with the ministers of a new government who has a lot of priorities that align with ours. Huge alignment between this government's interest in digital inclusion, in virtual health, mental health and addictions, education. These are all areas where digital inclusion is critical. So we're really hopeful as well that they'll see what we see, and they'll see the value of investing in, because it's not, there's no us to invest in, right? There's a few of us who are creating the space for this work, who are providing the backbone and bringing kind of principles and processes to it. But what we're really getting out of it is the collective effort of dozens and dozens and dozens of organizations, including government agencies like Schools Plus and mental health and addictions and community services. None of us can do this alone, but we have found a recipe where if we all play a part, we can deliver this service really effectively right to the front line without building this giant infrastructure, right? Or this giant bureaucracy, or all these, headaches that force people to twist themselves into a particular shape in order to access something, right? Like, because we're building it from the ground up, and because we're building it with the partners who directly serve individuals who might need this help, everything is reflective of creating the best experience for participants. And so it's another piece around the work that we're really excited about, isn't just that we're finding a way to get people connected, but that we're also demonstrating and practicing an approach that gets the best out of everybody and gets rid of a lot of the things that we know clog these things up, like the government deciding they're going to come up with something like this all by themselves because they'd spend 3 years planning it, right? And then it would have 15 forms and 200 hoops you got to jump through. And by the time it got to the ground, they'd have spent years and millions, and then it wouldn't work very well, right? And this is the opposite way, where we just start, and you start from the ground up, and you focus on the individual's experience, and you just keep modifying and improving in order to maximize that, right? The experience of the individual you're trying to support, and then everything just gets built around that. So I talk about it a lot because I think it's an important thing for us to try to keep in mind with this work as we're all doing this stuff around GEO, is that we're not just getting people connected, but we're practicing and demonstrating to folks like the private sector and the public sector that we are important partners in this kind of work. Because what we're doing with internet, it's the same story with food and probably housing and any number of things that are, critical to surviving, but are not exclusively the responsibility of like the government, right? Or the community sector or the private sector, right? We can't have, as we know, we can't have grocery stores be the only way to get food, because people would starve to death, right? You can't have buy your own home as the only way to have a place to live. Otherwise people would freeze to death. So internet access is something that the private sector has a large role in providing, right? They have the internet, they have the networks, they build and sell devices. So we need them. And the government has our collective resources, right? They hold the purse that we've all chipped into in order to do things that we can't do alone. So we need both of those sectors as partners to do this work, but we also know we can't leave it to them. They can't be exclusively responsible, because there are elements of this work that they're not good at, right? Including the frontline service or intake, or identifying what actual needs are. So I'm excited to say that our government partners are showing up, understanding that there's elements that they're necessary for, elements that they're really good at, and elements that that's not the case. And the same is true for the private sector partners that we have, and the same is true for all of our community sector partners. So we're really proud of that.
No, you guys are doing awesome. You're making it super accessible for everyone. Even just having put referrals in myself, I think it's super easy to do. The participants don't have a hard time with it, and it's like quick. Like you said too, if we went through the government, it would be a totally different story. So
Yeah,
I'm glad that there's an option like this.
Yeah. Well, like even before this call, we were in a meeting with some folks who are involved with virtual care, and we're talking about device needs, and just the example of how an initiative like ours can respond far quicker, right? So if we get money for devices, we can usually turn around and have devices out the door in a couple of weeks, like as far as placing an order, receiving them, and also distributing them. And she laughed and she said, if we had to place an order for devices, it'd probably be 12 weeks before they even get here, right? Like, so there's an example of how you play to the strengths of your different partners.
Sure. So I guess we'll move into the next question. Who is able to qualify for the services provided by GEO?
Yeah. So there's probably two answers to that question. Like the way we're operating right now, like the way we've been doing it so far this year, and kind of are at close to the tail end of, and then what we think that might look like going forward, because it's constantly in evolution. So currently there's nothing that would disqualify anybody from receiving support for GEO, except maybe where they live, right? Because we can only get a type of internet access to the places where that internet access can go. So right now our process is this: someone needs to need the help, they need to want the help, and they need to be helpable, right? That's it. So if you as a referral partner says, Matt here needs the internet and he doesn't have it, then that's accepted as the fact that we then work from. There's nothing else to say prove it or demonstrate how badly they need it, or prove that you're going to use it for the uses we want it. There's not, where do they live, what age are they, we're not bound through our funders to limit who's being served, and it's not our intention to limit who's being served. Part of the way the process rests on the strengths of our partners is to say, you, Emma, and the Breton Ability Centre know who you're working with. You know their situation. You know what their needs are. And so if you know how the program works and you use your own judgment and say, Matt needs help, then that's the question's been answered, right? That it's very inefficient and very ineffective to create a whole bunch more layers where you think they need it, but now you have to prove it to a stranger who doesn't know you and doesn't know them, and you're going to prove it through a bunch of paperwork and forms and check boxes, right? That we take all, at some point those systems remove any element of humanity or judgment out of it. People create these systems thinking that they can answer every question in the system, and then if people just follow the rules, then it will always work out. And that never works out, because everybody's different. Every individual is different, every partner is different, the situation's different. So you clean things up really easily by saying, Emma, you tell us who needs help and we'll help them. I mean, we're limited by budget, right? So when we say we can help 10 people, then Emma says, okay, well, I want to find the 10 people that need it the most, right? Not that I'm going to spend a year trying to find out the difference between the first and second and third, right? We don't want to, slow ourselves down too much, but we also don't want to clog ourselves up by saying we need to find only these people and not these people. So anyway, it was a rambling answer, but the short answer is, as long as we can serve people, we've never turned anyone away. Now, the future of this kind of service will probably have, this isn't certain, but we're hoping and we're thinking that it will have an element, obviously, of geography. So we hope to be able to reach more people depending on where you are. We hope to be able to add data packages to the types of services that we can provide, because sometimes that's the only way people are going to be reached. We hope to expand the types of devices. So right now it's new Chromebooks, but there's a huge kind of need within that for something like an iPad instead. And then another key example of how we think things will probably change in the future is we're thinking at this point about what it would take to incorporate a pay what you can model. Yeah. Because when we're buying internet, when we're buying devices, somebody has to pay for them, right? They're coming from somewhere and there's a cost attached. And the premise of GEO Nova Scotia is that everyone chips in what they can, right? And then when everyone chips in what they can, then we have enough. But right now, because for simplicity's sake and for speed's sake, we're not asking our participants to contribute anything, right? Besides accepting it. And our vision is that in the long run, we want them to have the opportunity to contribute as well. So a pay what you can model gives people the dignity and the opportunity to pay something for what it is they're getting. So what that looks like and how that is scaled, right? In my dream world, people can literally just say, here's what I'm able to pay. You tell me, right? But in reality, we're probably going to have to create some kind of structure or benchmarks or, or tiers or something like that. So maybe some people pay nothing and some people pay 10 and some people pay 30. Because the idea is that we want everybody to have internet and devices that are affordable to them. And we know that affordable to them or to you can mean anything from zero to full price in Nova Scotia. And so how do we match the need with the ability? So, because what we don't want is to give a small number of people free internet and then leave everyone else to the full price public sector. That's not getting everyone online, right? So anyway, so that's a long answer that provided only a sense of what we've done and what we hope to do. But as you can see, it's all a work in progress. Okay, good.
So how would an individual become a referral partner? I know this myself, but maybe Kaylee and Carrie want to know.
Yeah. So, all this year that would happen by reaching out to myself or your local delivery partner, right? So if you happen to be up in Cape Breton and you could connect with New Dawn. And then there's a conversation at that point about, the nature of your participants or clients, what your perceived needs are, what you perceive your clients' needs to be as they relate to internet and devices. And I'll tell you now, having gone through this with 60 partners, you don't always have a great idea of actually what the needs are. It can be over or underestimated, and it is what it is. But you try to get a sense of what you think the need might be and our capability to meet that need. Are you in a region where it can be served? If you have 10 people and we have room for 10, then we can probably just allocate 10. But maybe you think you have 100 and we only have 10. Like you have to match up our capacity with your need. And then we go through an orientation process. And so at least one individual from an organization that's a referral partner is kind of taking responsibility for keying in those referrals, for doing the actual intake process on your side of things. And that person or those people need to go through an orientation session with me over Zoom. It takes 1 hour. They learn about GEO. They learn exactly how it works. They answer, they hear all the possible questions. And then they get a password and they're able to get onto our website and key in referrals that then can be processed. So that's how it's been all year. And then we're probably going to hit a bit of a downtime for a few months as we retool and get reinvested, hopefully. And then we would probably have a new, more elaborate process. I think next year we're going to start registering those partners, right? So right now it's a lot of conversations and emails, and we'll probably create some forums and some more formal information. We have partners over in Scotland who are doing this at scale. They call it Connecting Scotland, and they're hooking up almost 60,000 households this year with 2 years of free data, a brand new device, and digital skills support, all publicly funded, all through a referral network like ours with the same sort of qualifications. Like if you need it, you get it. So we're learning a lot from them, and they're learning a little bit from us. So we hope to incorporate some of those lessons as well. And that would impact, for example, how partners get signed up or how their budgets get allocated.
I think I froze. Sorry.
That's okay. There you are.
Bad internet today. But no, it's good to hear that there's something very similar to you on a super large scale. You guys are getting there, obviously, but it's nice.
It was
to hear
so
that,
exciting.
There's
oh my
room
God.
for that much growth.
It was probably this time last year, maybe it was November or so. So we'd been doing our little GEO project thing, right? And it was built just like that. Here's the network. If you need it, you get it. We started doing it. And then one of our partners discovered this Connecting Scotland thing. And at that point, they were up to 10,000. And we're looking at it, we're like, oh my God, this is like exactly the same thing as us, except they also had this cool digital skills thing. So we reached out to them, and they're so nice, and they're so eager to share what they've been doing and to share what they've learned and to talk about, how it started. They had a lot of existing infrastructure and partnerships between the social sector and the government and this sort of thing. They had been working on digital inclusion already. And so they were able to just add jet fuel to it in 2020. And so when we found them, they were up to 10,000, and it was just amazing because it was like, this is it, right? And just what you said, it's really validating and helpful too when you're talking to the government. And we just imagine going to them and saying, here's how we want to spend your money. Somebody's going to say, we need help, and we just say, yeah, okay, and we just give it to them, right? And then we thought it would blow their minds, but that's what we had been doing. And it was working. And then to discover Scotland was doing it at that type of scale, fully funded by the government, and it's working well, and the government partners are thrilled. Well, that was a real boost of confidence. And that's been our experience too so far, is trying to keep those barriers as low as possible, right? Thinking about it always from the experience of the people we're trying to help and serve, and what makes the most sense for them and what's the best experience for them, tends to lead us to that sort of process. Versus saying, okay, we have our money and we need to protect it and take care of it and use it very carefully. So how can we build a system that makes sure nobody does anything we don't want to do with it, right? Like governments tend to create very highly protective, confrontational barrier, like it's one barrier after another, right? Because the mindset is that there's something we have that people will want that they shouldn't get. So we need to keep them away, right? And all you would do is create barriers for all the people you were trying to help in the first place. So are really pleased with the way this is taking shape, because it's coming from the ground up with the government as partners instead of, leaders are doing it exclusively.
For sure. I think too, it opens up the opportunity for you guys to meet people where they're at. That's something a lot of service providers can't give to the people they're serving. So it's awesome to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we kind of answered this question earlier. Where are our referral partners currently located? So
yeah.
Everywhere but the northern part of the province right now?
Well, no, they're largely, there's not specific. Okay, so we have the 4 delivery partners, right, in 4 regions. Then their network of referral partners are kind of anywhere that they can reach or serve. So even the money that gets allocated to our partner in the Valley doesn't say we only serve organizations in this zone, or we only serve people in this zone. Right? They say, who are the organizations that we're in touch with or that we can reach or that it makes sense? And then wherever they happen to be, that's fine. And then wherever their client happens to be, that's fine too. So, it could actually stretch in a bit of a chain, fair distance away from where the original delivery partner is. Our internet account could go anywhere in the province. We're not limited by geography there. So it really is just a matter of kind of that organic growth about where the delivery partner started from and who they're reaching now. And then what does the next wave look like? So we're already talking to friends in Pictou County about, standing something up there and what might it look like, and how many different delivery partners do you need in the province, right? Should you do one in each region? Should we add one in each town, right? Do you have, hubs where it's kind of collected in a few areas and then kind of secondary ones? Like the shape of it and how best to spread that work out around the province, again, is a work in progress. So our hope would be that next year allows us to, at least in theory, serve partners in any part of the province, even though we might have, be working on the logistics as far as distance.
Okay, cool. So how would a service user get connected with GEO? Maybe just kind of explain the process of a service user trying to get online.
Yeah, so as far as, for us, we call them participants, and a GEO participant finds out about us probably through you, or our referral partner who realizes that, I as the participant don't have what I need to be online, don't have a device or don't have internet or both. And you've got some allocations. And so that is to say there's room in our budget for me. So the first thing that you do, once you identify somebody that you serve who is in need, who doesn't have something they need to get online because of cost, right? Then the first thing you'll do is actually check to see if my address is serviceable, right? So we have a process with our internet provider to email them. You actually email them and provide an address, and they'll confirm whether this service can be provided to that address. So we do that before we actually engage the participant, so we don't get people's hopes up or spend their time or make promises that we can't meet. So you get a special email address that you send over to, in this case, Eastlink. Eastlink says, yep, we can service that address. Then you can approach the participant and say, so we have access to this program that, you know, would give you 12 months of free internet or that device. Are you interested? Yes, I certainly am. Great. And so as a referral partner, you have access through a password protected form on our website to do the intake for that individual. So you say, great, we'll hop on the phone or sit down beside me and we'll take 15 minutes and we'll key in the information. And so a bunch of the information in the form is just obvious stuff to provide service. It's contact information and addresses. There's a cluster of questions about their intended use of that service. So this helps our evaluation team describe and understand how people are using devices. At intake, it's kind of their intention, and later we can follow up to discover what has happened. So those ones are optional, but they're really light touch. And then within that form, there's also a separate form that pops open where demographic questions get asked. And so they're also optional, but it pops up into a separate form to maintain privacy. So all of participants' answers in the first form about their name and contact information go exclusively to the GEO team to provide service, and all the information that they may choose to answer in the second form that might be about their gender or their age or their economic situation, it has none of their identifying information on it, and that is only available to the evaluation team centrally. So we build privacy, and so their experience would be that they'd go through this form, they'd answer these questions, and then that information is submitted through the web to the GEO team, and the local GEO team sees that referral. Typically, they would then just call the person up. Hey, Matt, I see you've been referred for GEO. Just check, reconfirm this is how it works. I get your permission to send your information to our internet provider. I say, yes, you can send my information to them. And then a small batch of information necessary for the account goes to the internet service provider, who gets the referral and then calls me and says, hi, Matt, welcome to GEO. We're going to send you a modem. Your service is going to start as soon as you get it in a couple of days. And then that's it. So the modem arrives in the mail, I plug it in, and away I go. If I've asked for a device, then you as my referral partner would get that device. You'd either pick it up or make arrangements and get it to me. And that's it. It's a very clean. So from intake to, working on the internet can be as little as a week if everything moves quickly. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't move that quickly, but everybody within the chain tries to respond same day or next day. And so sometimes it's just a matter of how long does it take to arrive in the mail, or how long does it take to get somebody on the phone. And then the other thing, Emma, is that within that process, there's multiple places where the process can be switched or changed depending on the needs of the participant. So that's the typical process, but we know that we work with all kinds of people and organizations where their needs are different and unique. And it could be around communication, or it could be around any number of things. And so the whole intake process also has multiple places where, as a partner, you can identify a different way is necessary to help this participant. So it might be, don't call them, only use email. It might be, don't call them, only call their caseworker. It might be, there's language barriers or something else. And so there's lots of opportunities for the referral partner, who is the one who knows, to share what's necessary with the delivery partner at GEO, and even with the internet provider as appropriate, in order to make sure that the service matches the needs of the participant, or even just providing that service, right? As far as who we're talking to. If somebody doesn't have a phone, how is Eastlink supposed to call them and set up the account, right? Well, we got to work that out. Because, we've had those cases, and so everyone wraps around and works together and figures it out, how to serve each individual participant. So their experience is usually through this simple chain, which is getting a few phone calls in a row. But it can also look very different if their needs are different.
For sure. Still super user friendly though, which is great.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
goal.
So I guess we're at our last question now. Who can a potential referral partner contact to begin partnering with GEO?
The Provincial Coordinator, Matt Spurway, GEO Nova Scotia at gmail.com. The website has contact information that loops back to me. At this point, we're unlikely to create a whole bunch of new referral partners as we're closing out the budget that we're already have. But we know for every partner we have, there's probably 10 others that we haven't even met yet. So
For sure.
meeting folks and understanding where they are and their needs is really important. And we hope to, in 2022, if not 2022, then early 2023, maybe even, convene a digital inclusion conference province-wide to bring all the different partners into the same space to talk about these things. Because each one of you, I can tell, because I've spoken to, dozens and dozens and dozens of organizations now across hundreds of people across the province grappling with this from whatever angle they have, right? Either the people they're trying to serve or the service they're trying to provide. And there's so many similarities across the province, even if your field of work is very different. But when it comes to digital inclusion, there's a whole lot of similarities and overlap and things we can learn from each other. So we shouldn't be grappling with these things in isolation. There's some things that only we can do, right? That individual level of service for that individual person belongs right at the front line. But there's other elements of this that it makes a lot more sense to kind of bundle up, right? So instead of 500 organizations all trying to figure out how to buy a device for a participant, let's have one organization figure out how to buy 500 devices for participants, right? And we'll get that buying power and centralize what makes sense and disperse what makes sense. So the short answer is yes, contact me. I want to hear from everybody. And also everyone's doing it knowing where we are in the process right now, which is not at this point with a lot of resources to distribute, but a lot of eagerness to build more relationships.
It's good to even start with having that conversation.
You got to start.
Right?
You got to start somewhere. And this is relationship based. We don't like having somebody call us today and say, I want to get signed up today, be an ORIA partner today. I've got somebody I want to sign up today. Right? That's too fast. This is, it takes some time to understand. And just in the same way that your work with your participants is relationship based, our work between organizations as partners needs to be relationship based. This isn't transactional where we're just buying something from each other and disappearing, right? We need to maintain that mindset that we're all partners and that we're all helping each other out. And that's how it's going to stick together and work well.
And it's a great way to go about it. I spoke with you.
It's a good way to be in the world,
now.
I think, actually.
Yeah. No, it makes it good. I see a friendly face very often now because of me being a partner. And it's nice to be able to have conversation about, I guess, what I'm trying to do in helping my participants and what you're trying to do in terms of providing internet services or device to individuals.
Absolutely.
So that's all I have. I don't know if Kaylee or Carrie have any questions, but if they do, I'm hoping they'll maybe turn their mics on or put in the chat. So I guess we'll just wait a minute.
Sure. So I'll take a minute too and just say that the digital inclusion, again, has three pillars, right? Internet access, devices, and the third, just as important, is skills, right? You need the digital skills to safely and confidently go online. And many, many Nova Scotians don't have that. They may not have any of them, or they may have internet and not skills, or they may have device and not skills. And so we're really eager to complement our work with additional supports around digital skills. So, and our inspiration is actually coming from Connecting Scotland. So they have, for a number of years, been operating a program called Digital Champions that basically provides kind of one-on-one skills support to individuals, meeting them where they're at. And they enhanced that immensely and figured out how to do it remotely when COVID struck. So that same 60,000 households are all also being offered connection to a digital champion. And this is a program that we hope to launch here in Nova Scotia next year if we can get the funding. And what it would then do is provide training and support to those same frontline organizations such as yourself, and give you some of the tools and support to be a digital champion for someone, to help meet them where they're at, on a very kind of temporary basis. It could be a couple times a week for 20 or 30 minutes. And it's also relationship based, right? It recognizes that we're all individuals and we don't learn this stuff just by, showing up at a classroom and following someone's curriculum, right? There's trust issues and communication issues and fear issues, a lot of times with digital hesitancy. And so the Digital Champions program really recognizes that and tries to set people up in a way where they're going to feel comfortable with somebody, comfortable with the frustration, get what they need as they need it, and really get them excited about being online and break down some of those mental barriers as well. That pillar, again, we recognize is just as critical. And there's a lot of people that we've been able to help this year with the first two who we haven't been able to help with the third. And we know that that's going to be important in the long run. So we're also really eager to circle back to all of our partners and future partners to figure out the digital skills piece as well, because that's just as important as devices and internet, but tougher in some ways, right? Because the first two, if you have enough money, is right, then it's a matter of logistics. But learning is really complex because everybody's different. What they need to know is different. Their ability to pick it up is different. How and their willingness and who can transfer that information is all unique to the individual and their circumstances. So it's going to take a lot of us working together in order to provide digital skills to everybody who needs it.
For sure. No, it'll be a great thing to have, though. I know there's a lot of people that are going to benefit from that. So Carrie said in the chat that this sounds like a great program. She's hoping that one day her organization will be in contact with you to be a partner. I think she said something else. She said, oh, Kaylee said to look out for an email from her.
Fantastic.
So I guess that's all we have. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Matt. It's been great talking with you.
It's my pleasure.
All right, so we'll sign off. You have a great day, Matt, and you too, Kaylee and Carrie.
Thanks, Emma. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.